Hello everyone, my exceptionality is Down syndrome. So there are hundreds of thousands of people with Down syndrome in the United States and an estimated 6 million people with Down syndrome worldwide. Because of its prevalence, it is important to know what it is, how it's diagnosed, and what educational support services and resources could be available to teachers, students, caregivers, and parents. So you might be asking yourself, what is Down syndrome? The most common kind of Down syndrome is called trisomy 21. This is where a person is born with 3 copies of chromosome 21 instead of 2. This occurs at conception by an error in cell division called non-disjunction. Keep in mind, this is not related to anything the mother did during pregnancy. It's also not related to race, nationality, religion, or socioeconomic status. There are 2 other forms of Down syndrome, but they are very rare. One is called mosaic Down syndrome, and the other is translocation Down syndrome. Now, Down syndrome was named after an English physician named John Langdon Down. This happened before there was knowledge of the genetic makeup of people, so originally a diagnosis was made based on the presence of certain physical features. So what are those characteristics? Some physical characteristics of Down syndrome include a smaller overall stature, a flat facial profile, almond-shaped eyes, small ears that may fold over a bit, protruding tongues, shorter, chubbier fingers, and low muscle tone. Now keep in mind that not all individuals will exhibit all of these characteristics. There are also some cognitive characteristics to keep in mind. They include a short attention span, poor judgment, impulsive behavior, slow learning, delayed language and speech development, and these effects can range from mild to moderate. So how is Down syndrome diagnosed? Well, it can be diagnosed with prenatal screening tests and/or diagnostic tests. A screening test would tell the mother the likelihood that the fetus has Down syndrome. A doctor would give her a number on a rating scale from 0 to 100, and the higher the number, the higher the likelihood that the fetus has Down syndrome. Screening tests are typically non-invasive. It's just a blood test for the mother. There are 2 types of these tests. One is called maternal serum screening, and the other cell-free DNA screening. Now, all positive test results should be confirmed by a diagnostic test. So a diagnostic test would give the mother a definite answer whether the fetus has Down syndrome. But this is a more invasive test, which involves taking a sample of the fetus's blood, amniotic fluid, or tissue. There's 3 types of diagnostic tests. One is called amniocentesis. The second is a chorionic villus sampling. And last is a chordocentesis. Now, if a mother chooses to not be tested while she is pregnant, the baby will be examined after birth for physical characteristics. They will also send a sample of the baby's blood to the lab for testing. So, people with Down syndrome have the capability to attain educational goals, hold jobs, and be fully contributing members of society. So what are some instructional strategies that educators can use to help those people attain those goals? Well, some things to implement in the classroom possibly could be a shorter desk chair or elevated footrest. They may need special school supplies such as spring-loaded scissors, a larger pencil or a triangular pencil grip. It might be helpful to have a digital timer for easing transitional activities. People with Down syndrome are very easily distracted, so create a quiet space for them to learn and work to help eliminate those distractions. People with Down syndrome are visual learners. So try to model tasks and pair pictures with words. They also have fewer short-term memory channels, so keep your directions simple. It might even be helpful to ask them to repeat the instructions to you to be sure that they understand what you're asking of them. Use words that students are familiar with and they understand. Allow these students adequate or extra time to complete assignments and projects. And finally, keep worksheets simple. So what are support services and resources that are available? In this day and age, we are so lucky to have the internet to easily search for support services and resources. And here are just a few. Tips for teaching students with Down syndrome. The National Association for Down Syndrome. Down Syndrome Sibling Resources. And finally, 42 other great Down syndrome resources. Thank you everyone for listening to my presentation on Down syndrome. I hope you were able to learn a few things that you can use in your future teaching